With breaking news from WWL Louisiana.
Well, that breaking news, New Orleans Mayor Latoya Cantrell has pled not guilty in the federal case against her. Today's arraignment comes after an indictment last month.
This breaking news covering the arraignment of Mayor Latoya Cantrell not guilty. That is her plea on all of the federal charges she is facing: wire fraud, obstruction of justice, and making false statements. This happening moments ago. We're getting live updates from our reporters.
Mayor Cantrell walked into federal court Wednesday facing multiple charges. Her demeanor was calm as she pleaded not guilty to all of them.
The mayor of New Orleans was banging a bodyguard, lying about it, and now is under federal indictment. Let's talk about it. This is Latoya Cantrell, the mayor of New Orleans. Now, she's a Democrat, and okay, I gotta keep it 100%. New Orleans is a disaster. It was the murder capital of the United States for a couple of years, and crime is out of control. It's so bad that the DA, the sitting DA in New Orleans, was recently carjacked with his mom in the car.
DA Jason Williams and his mother are two of the latest victims of an armed carjacking, this one in the Lower Garden District. They say they were carjacked at gunpoint as Williams was helping his 78-year-old mother into her car.
New Orleans 911, Rafia, this is your emergency.
This is District Attorney Jason Williams, and I was just carjacked at the corner of Race and Magazine Street.
Were any weapons involved?
Yes, 2 guns, 3 to 4 assailants.
Get out the car, Mama. Let me get my mom out the car. Come on. Come this way.
So you see how bad it is in New Orleans. Now, they were number 1 in murders in the United States for a whole bunch of years, but now they've improved. They are now number 3, right behind St. Louis, Missouri, and Baltimore, Maryland, 2 other Democrat-run cities. Matter of fact, Democrats have a monopoly on being the murder capital of the United States because the top 10 cities in terms of the murder rate are all run by Democrats. What a surprise. Now, when it comes to Cantrell, she got into power when there was this wave of female empowerment, especially black female empowerment. You had Tiffany Henyard elected in Dalton. You had Tish James in New York, the DA in Fulton County, Fonnie Willis, and you had Cantrell, who was the first black woman ever elected to be mayor in New Orleans.
For the first time in its 300-year history, New Orleans has a female mayor. Latoya Cantrell was elected in a landslide victory with 60% of the votes. She beat another woman in the month-long runoff, which came to an end last night.
Now, as mayor, Latoya Cantrell gets police protection. Obviously, it's a big city, and she is a target. Now, one of the police officers assigned to Mayor Cantrell's protection detail is Jeffrey Vappy. And things get interesting in October of 2021 when the mayor takes a trip to Scotland.
Mayor Cantrell and Jeffrey Vappy's relationship all started on a trip to Scotland. We're going to show you that. It says in or around October 2021, Vappy accompanied Cantrell to Scotland. Vappy would later reminisce in a WhatsApp message to Cantrell that the Scotland trip was, quote unquote, where it all started. Again, they deny a relationship, but the feds have basically given you a 50-page indictment laying one out.
Now, this trip to Scotland was the first of many trips that the mayor took her boyfriend on, costing the city about $70,000 in his travel expenses.
And not only that, the Scotland trip, that was just one of more than a dozen trips. The indictment alleges that Vappy accompanied the mayor on 14 trips outside of Louisiana. That includes places like Los Angeles, Orlando, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., international destinations as well. You just heard the message about the Scotland trip where it allegedly all started, all totaling about $70,000 in costs incurred just for his travel on the taxpayer dime.
Now, the money the mayor was spending on this travel started getting crazy. And on top of that, the mayor was flying first class, which a regular plane ticket is like $300, $400, maybe $500, where a first class plane ticket is like $10,000. And on top of that, the city's rules say you cannot use first class flights because it's so expensive. But the mayor responded that she's entitled to first class flights because she's a black woman. I'm not joking.
She insists that flying coach is unsafe for black women. Here's the quote. "My travel accommodations are a matter of safety, not of luxury. As all women know, our health and safety are often disregarded and we are left to navigate alone. Anyone who wants to question how I protect myself just doesn't understand the world black women walk in."
I know what you're thinking. That's a whole bunch of BS, but that's what she said. And eventually she did have to pay back that first class travel because her excuse was nonsense. Now, for those of you who are old enough to remember the movie The Bodyguard, it starred Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston, and it was a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. But Mayor Cantrell saw herself as Whitney Houston in The Bodyguard, and that's what they were allegedly trying to mimic with their relationship.
You know, there are lots of juicy details for people who like to be all in the details. This is a page turner of an indictment, I have to say.
Sensationalize the fact that they were trying to mimic the Bodyguard movie to some degree.
There's a picture in here. On page 32, if you want to look at that, Pat or Ed.
Now, the feds are alleging that they're essentially stealing money from the city. Vappy wasn't working for the city as a police officer protecting the mayor. He was going on trips with his girlfriend, and they were banging each other, and he was getting paid sort of like an escort to be there with his girlfriend. And here are the receipts the Fed dropped to prove this was going on.
Here's our initial story, which aired in November of 2022. On a trip the two took to Washington, D.C. in August of that year. The mayor arrived in D.C. on an early Sunday flight, accompanied by NOPD officer Jeffrey Vappy, who served as her security on duty. The mayor had no meetings on her calendar that day, but Vappy, her security, billed taxpayers for 15 hours of work, 7 a.m. until 10 at night. The next day, the only event on the mayor's calendar was a 1:30 p.m. meeting. That day, Vappy claims he worked another 15 hours, from 7 a.m. until 10 at night. Then on Tuesday, the two flew back, according to the mayor's schedule, an early morning flight. Records show that flight arrived back in New Orleans 23 minutes early, just before 10 a.m. Records show the mayor had two other members of her security team on duty that day. Still, after returning to New Orleans around 10 in the morning, Vappy continued to get paid, going off the clock at 9 that night. In early April, Vappy traveled with the mayor to San Francisco for a conference on climate change. The meeting wrapped up on Friday at noon, but the two didn't leave until the next night, taking a red-eye back on Saturday night at 11:05. The flight landed at 5:22 a.m. back in New Orleans. We've confirmed it was on time. The day of that 5:22 a.m. arrival back home, Vappy stayed on the clock until 12 that night. So on Saturday and Sunday, when all he apparently did was fly on a plane from San Francisco back to New Orleans, taxpayers paid Vappy for 30 hours of work, 15 hours on Saturday, another 15 on Sunday.
So now, obviously, the overtime is extremely questionable, to say the least. Matter of fact, some would say possibly criminal. And this wasn't just happening on trips. The mayor and her bodyguard were going around the city, drinking, having a good time, all on a taxpayer dime.
July 28, 2022, NOPD officer Jeffrey Vappy at the bar of French Quarter restaurant Doris Metropolitan, his hand touching a filled wine glass. Vappy sitting next to Mayor Latoya Cantrell. The time of this picture, 8:20 p.m. According to city records, though, at this exact time, Officer Vappy was on the NOPD clock, being paid by taxpayers until 9 o'clock that night. After the MCC filed a complaint about another picture of Vappy and Cantrell eating on a French Quarter restaurant balcony. Goyeneche says the NOPD has now opened a second file on this new picture, a second investigation into Vappy. We've located a third time Vappy and Cantrell ate together. This post coming from Instagram. February 22nd of this year, a Thursday. The mayor's schedule clear the entire day. No scheduled meetings or phone calls on her calendar. According to city records, the mayor didn't send one work-related email or text message that day. At lunchtime, she showed up to the restaurant Company Burger on Ferret with Officer Vappy eating together outside. That day, Vappy billed taxpayers for 12 hours of work, including during the time he ate with the mayor.
So now, people, I'm going to tell you, this isn't enough to show that she's sleeping with the guy. Is it enough to show that there's an issue with the overtime? Yes, but it's not enough to show she's sleeping with the guy. So what did the feds do? They got their text messages. And that's when the bomb bomb exploded.
And to perpetuate their continued fraud, including using a secure messaging platform, WhatsApp. Specifically, Cantrell and Vappy used the WhatsApp platform to exchange over 15,000 messages, pictures, and audio clips in an 8-month period. They also used WhatsApp to intimidate subordinates, to harass a citizen, to lie to colleagues and associates, to delete evidence, to make false statements to FBI agents, to give the government an affidavit signed under oath that contained numerous false statements, and ultimately to commit perjury before a federal grand jury, all for the purpose of distracting and impeding inquiries and investigations into their activities, including a federal grand jury investigation. That both Vappy and Cantrell were aware that their conduct broke laws, criminal laws. For instance, in April 2022, an associate of Cantrell's explicitly told her in multiple text messages that spending public funds and using public resources for her personal relationship was illegal.
Now, even with the text messages and all this other evidence they got with the pictures and the timesheets, the mayor said these are all false allegations.
So as it relates to my professional relationship with Officer Vappy, that's where it is. It's strictly professional.
Following our stories, which started airing in November of 2022, Mayor Cantrell repeatedly called her relationship with Vappy professional, calling him a trusted advisor.
As I've stated, based on the false allegations that come my way, by the time I finish this job, literally, accused of sleeping with half of the city of New Orleans, both genders and all pronouns. I'm known as Teddy sometimes and then Teddy other times. So with that, false allegations do not, that's basically all I have to say about it.
So with this treasure trove of information and all of this evidence showing that they were clearly sleeping together and that they were clearly fleecing the city for thousands of dollars in pay, the feds indicted the mayor and her boyfriend.
Good evening, I'm John Snell.
And I'm Meg Gatto. The 18-count indictment accuses Mayor Latoya Cantrell and her former NOPD bodyguard, Jeffrey Vappy, of conspiracy, wire fraud, and lying to a grand jury.
The indictment alleges Cantrell and Vappy took 14 different trips together to places such as San Francisco, New York, Martha's Vineyard, and Los Angeles, costing city taxpayers more than $70,000 just for Vappy's travel expenses, separate from Mayor Cantrell's own travel cost. According to the indictment, around October 2021, Vappy went to Scotland with Cantrell and later sent her a WhatsApp message, which is a free encrypted phone messaging app. Vappy's message allegedly said the Scotland trip was, quote, where it all started. The indictment also says Vappy and Cantrell deleted messages they exchanged. Federal prosecutors say Cantrell signed and authorized the travel expense forms Vappy submitted, despite knowing they falsely reflected that Vappy had engaged exclusively in official business activities. The feds say Cantrell and Vappy also discussed they needed to be careful and to be straight together, allegedly to avoid having their relationship detected. The feds say when a city associate tried to warn her and stop the mayor, texting, quote, spending public funds and using public resources for your personal relationship was illegal, Cantrell responded that her relationship with Vappy was not about a personal relationship.
So with all that, the mayor pleaded not guilty. And obviously, she's pulling the race card, right? This is because I'm black and they're coming after black mayors.
Been a center of countless investigations, right? And I have always complied, and that's what I'll continue to do. I do know that this seems to be kind of prevalent relative to black leadership, and I think that I'm not exempt from that.
Like, this woman is a disgrace. She's honestly gonna pull the race card after she's been busted cold. She was erasing and deleting messages, trying to hide the fact they were sleeping together, and everybody knew what was going on. He's staying at her apartment, for God's sake. But the mayor wants to pretend that it's all about race. And what makes this even crazier is that one of her employees warned her, was like, yo, you gotta be careful because you could go to jail if people find out you're doing this.
And it's funny you should mention that, because I know, Pat, you had talked about on one page of the indictment the sense of entitlement that they wouldn't get caught. One page of the indictment talks about someone even giving a warning to the mayor about what she was doing was potentially illegal.
Yeah, somebody texted her and writes, "It is a felony," all caps, "to have your lover be paid to work and have his travel paid for by the city. Please don't let this be your path, Latoya." And she writes back and says, she challenged the person who wrote that, said, "Prove that I'm having a relationship."
Well, the feds were able to do that exactly. Prove that she was having a relationship, banging her security detail on these expensive, elaborate trips. Now, Cantrell has pleaded not guilty. She said, "I didn't do any of this." And obviously because she's a black woman and they're targeting black women. But at the end of the day, she had to go in front of a judge and plead not guilty to these charges.
But we are following breaking news of the federal charges against New Orleans Mayor Latoya Cantrell.
Yeah, Chief Investigative Reporter David Hammer beginning our team coverage tonight here in the studio. David?
Yeah, Katie and Charisse, Mayor Latoya Cantrell pleaded not guilty to 11 counts of conspiracy, fraud, obstruction of justice, and false statements to a grand jury. The government says it was to cover up an alleged affair with her bodyguard, Jeffrey Vappy.
Now, Mayor Cantrell pleaded not guilty to a host of charges. 1 count of conspiracy, 4 counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of conspiracy to obstruct justice. That's trying to hide the fact that she was sleeping with this guy and erasing the text messages, and false declarations in front of a grand jury. Essentially, that's lying to the grand jury. Now, if convicted on all counts, the mayor's facing something like 50 years in prison if she's maxed out. So this is some serious time. So I'll leave it to you. Is the mayor guilty? Is she innocent? I'll let you play it out. But now officially and legally, Mayor Cantrell is innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. No matter what you feel about the evidence, a jury or judge has to come down and say you are guilty as charged before we can claim that she's committed any crime. So right now, as I speak, the mayor is innocent of any criminal activity until she's found guilty. She has been accused, she has been charged, but she has not been convicted. So let's make that very, very clear. And I think her chances of being convicted are extremely high, especially with the evidence the government has presented. But we will all wait to see. Now, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff. Is Tiffany Henyard going to be next? Because she was essentially doing the exact same thing this mayor was doing, but Tiffany Henyard hasn't been arrested, nor has she been indicted yet. They're investigating, but they haven't done anything. So we will see with that case too. But as of right now, if I'm Henyard, I'm really, really nervous because Latoya Cantrell was banging her bodyguard, and it seems like Tiffany Henyard was also banging her bodyguard. It all looks bad. But again, don't forget, hook me up with a subscribe if you like this content, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.